Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 4. So those Superman and Lois has been filming, for a decent couple of months roughly, like what, since the second or third week of January, I think it was. And we have seen some stuff posted on things like social media and even I think a couple of things on the official Instagram for the show and everything like that. There is one pretty big thing that we're used to seeing with TV shows in general, and I guess more specifically the DC TV shows on the CW, or at least talking about them on this channel. Though Superman and Lois wasn't the biggest supplier of them, we still got them in previous seasons, but this season, none really so far, and that is that of set photos. Now, of course, we had seen photos of like the current states of the sets that they used from previous seasons, like people taking photos of them, like the downtown Smallville set, which we know is being used this season. We'd seen some stuff on social media in regards to that. But then, of course, the Kent farm was empty compared to previous seasons from photos we saw, so it wouldn't be used this season. I mean, like the actual filming location. I'm not talking about the actual farm. We know that we have like the indoor house set for scenes on the veranda, so they'll use that. And I guess they'd use some existing shots from previous seasons to like enter those scenes. I'd assume so. But the void, or like just non-existence, if you want to put it, of set photos has now come to an end, as we have some new set photos which put into question what we thought was the case with a certain aspect or part of the show heading into season 4, though these photos could maybe indicate that, what we thought was the case was just extended an episode or so longer than we like sort of initially thought, and it's still the case now as we speak. But yeah, these set photos, I was going to say set photos, but these set photos are coming from Canada Graphs, as you would usually expect. So I will link link to the blog where these photos come from. But, we will, of course, talk about them in this video, as well as some other aspects of the show going forward to the series finale that maybe connect to these set photos and everything like that. Now, these photos are from episode 7. And they indicate some spoilers, I guess. Like, it's very minor because they aren't related, or they have nothing to do with, I guess, the main character or the main characters of the Kent family or Lex Luthor or anything like that. It's with the side stuff, so nothing to worry about that on that side in regards to the spoilery stuff. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on this stuff. Anything you want to add, any theories? I guess it'd be interesting if there's any theories, or just how you think things are going to play out. Because there's one thing in these set photos where it teases something happening, so you might have a different thought as to what I'm thinking. So if that's the case, let me know. Just general thoughts, let me know in the comments. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, drop a like. Takes 2 seconds. Now, this is the episode that we've mentioned a few times in recent videos. As I said, it's episode 7, and this is the one being directed by Gregory Smith. And this is notable because it's the one that features the debut, or at least we think it's the one that features the debut of Jimmy Olsen in the show of Superman and Lois, and he will be played by Gregory Smith's younger brother, Douglas. And we had talked about all the guest stars from previous seasons, and I guess more specifically season 3 leading into season 4 being done now, with the limited guest appearance runs that we knew was coming our way in season 4 because they weren't returning as series regulars. They were just going to be in a handful of episodes each, most likely in the first half or the first 5 or 6 episodes of the season. But these photos disprove that, at least in regards to episode 7 being the start of the show without these characters. But in these photos, we see the Firehouse of Smallville, which we had spent time with, I guess mainly last season, but I think at other random points over the seasons of the show so far, but I guess specifically last season because, Jonathan was working there and everything. We will read our Canada Graphs report or blog post, not word for word, but just the important stuff of relevance, and I'll put some of the photos over the top when relevant when we're speaking about them, so hopefully that sounds good. If so, let's go. Earlier this week, the cast and crew of Superman and Lois were filming scenes at the Fire Hall or Firehouse in downtown Cloverdale, that's the actual suburb in real life, after a short shoot at their downtown Smallville set in the morning and early afternoon. This episode is being directed by Gregory Smith. Now, this could have been, just a pause here, when they were shooting in downtown Smallville could have been the time when we got that photo of Douglas and Gregory Smith, and it was like a social media post, so that could have been that. Now, the scenes shot on this day included Tyler Hoechlin as Clark Kent, Eric Valdez as Kyle Cushing, and Sevilla Hasmick as Chrissy Beppo. So that's, you can get the hint as to what I was referring to before in regards to something we thought had come to an end, but is still happening in episode 7. And that is the presence of the guest stars, or the former series regulars turned guest stars. So the first scene, as you might be able to see on screen, hopefully if I put a photo there, photos there, have Kyle and Chrissy doing a scene where they are sharing a meal on a park bench outside of the fire hall. Now, they have a long conversation. Unfortunately, nothing could really be heard, so you don't really know any of the dialogue and what's specifically happening. But the scene had Chrissy lean into Kyle at the end, and Kyle giving her a kiss on the top of her head. Sophia was then wrapped, and they started preparing for the other shot they would do there that day. And this thing that they do the next day is a bit later. The crew all moved into the fire truck bay, so I guess actually within the fire hall itself. And within there, they had a scene where Clark and Kyle have a conversation. Again, a lengthy conversation that couldn't be heard. But during it, Kyle asked the rest of the people in the fire hall to leave for a moment so they can have a chat in private, maybe about the fact that he's Clark is Superman. And at the end of the chat, you see Clark looking at a barbecue that has a for sale sign on it, which you hopefully should see on screen right now. Unfortunately, because of the way this scene is designed, Clark was never facing towards us forward, so we got very little in the way of shots of him facing us. Now, I think that's of no real importance outside of maybe being able to lip read what he was saying or something like that. But, with these photos, I don't necessarily reveal too much, but one of the most interesting things from it is probably in regards to Chrissy Beppo, because if you remember, towards the end of last season, it was revealed that she was pregnant. Now, I can't tell if she is still pregnant in these photos because she is sitting down, and then in this photo where she is standing up, she has her arms crossed, but even then it doesn't look like she's wearing like prosthetic, what would you call it, like the strap-on belly of sorts, or whatever they'd call it. Because the actress herself, Sophia Hasmik, I keep saying Hamzic like that soccer player, but anyway, Hasmik, she isn't pregnant. Well, I don't think she is the actual actress, so she would have that strap-on belly sort of things that they would have for actresses that play a pregnant character but aren't pregnant themselves. But it doesn't look like she's obviously in this thing where she's like sitting down, it sort of looks like a belly of sorts, but it could just be the way her shirt is falling. You know how that happens when you sit down and stuff. So I don't know. I can't be for sure, but if the character of Chrissy Beppo is still pregnant within this scene, does that confirm that we aren't doing a massive time jump? If anything, season 4 maybe starts straight after the end of season 3. We pick up exactly where we left off, considering that this is episode 7. This isn't episode 2 or 3, soon after, so whatever. But this is, considerable amount of time after the end of season 3. So would Chrissy still be pregnant? And I guess if we continue straight after where we left, she could still be pregnant by this time in the season. But as I said, there's that shot of her standing up, which she doesn't look pregnant at all. There's nothing that going on there. So if it's episode 7 and there is a few months time jump, even if it's 3, by the time we get to episode 7 in season 4, their child could be born, And I don't think they're going to do anything dark where she, the pregnancy fails or anything like that. I think that they're going to have a kid, but it just depends at the point of this season whether she's still pregnant or the kid already exists in real life. It's been born. But I think, once again, we're jumping to conclusions here, but I'd assume that this is the final episode with Kyle and Chrissy, and they potentially are the two final series regulars. They're the final ones that finish off the story. There is still the question of the irons of John Henry and Natalie, whether they still have something to do with this season, and maybe that's the way they've organized it, where a certain amount of guest stars were for the first 4 episodes, and there's a couple that finish in the realm of episodes 6 and 7, and then maybe the irons is, for example, especially John Henry or both of them, because they both have super suits they can play into the end of the show, so maybe they leave them for the end of the show. Maybe they show up in episode 4 or 5 so they can interact with some of the other characters that are leaving, but then they save their other appearances for maybe episode 8 or 9 so they can play into the more adventure and superhero-y side of the show, just due to what the characters are. But with this, it seems like maybe this is it for Kyle and Chrissy, and this is almost like an emotional thing where they're both leaving, because then of course we can fold over into the Clark and Kyle scene where of course we don't hear any of the dialogue, but we get some visual cues, and we have the for sale sign on the barbecue. Now, I'm assuming that Kyle and Chrissy are going to be moving away from Smallville. That's what I'm assuming based off this. Kyle is selling his barbecue. Maybe they're moving to a metropolitan city, not necessarily Metropolis, maybe Metropolis, but just a metropolitan city for maybe Chrissy's career. Maybe the rise of the Smallville Gazette and Lois being involved has gotten her a job. Maybe she goes to the Daily Planet to work. I'm not too sure. And maybe they also think it's a better place to maybe raise their kid. Maybe, and Kyle can of course get a job at another firehouse and in that specific city if he needs to do that, whatever it might be. But if they move to a city where they maybe move into an apartment, it makes sense you'd sell the barbecue. So, because you probably wouldn't have any room there. But that's what I'd assume. Now, in regards to the Clark side of things, outside of Clark actually being there and talking, there's nothing really of note. There was a couple of shots of his truck which you might be able to see on screen, but there's nothing really of note. I mean, there's not like a massive scar on his head, or he's got longer hair or anything. There's nothing really of note to talk about in regards to the Clark Kent side of things. He's just been Clark. It's more on the other side of things with Chrissy and Kyle and what's happening there, and what it also might mean for some of those other characters. As I said, because of the lack of set photos, we're really basing most of the stuff prior to this off social media stuff. And we knew that like Sarah Cushing or Indy Navarrete, who plays Sarah, was done. She finished last episode. So do they leave Smallville as well? So the fact we have Kyle and Chrissy appearing to potentially be leaving Smallville here makes you wonder, does that happen with the other characters as well? At least in regards to the other Cushings of like, or like, you know, Lana and, you know, Sarah and everything like that. Just because it'd be weird if they stayed in Smallville and there's still zero interaction with the Kents after that case. But with the Ironses, as I said, because of the nature of those characters and they can help on the superhero side of things, they might have been left for episode 8 or 9, but that's for us to wait and find out. We don't know. The only thing that goes against that is that Wole Parks, who plays John Henry Irons, was cast in another show and he was filming, but the thing is that if he was scheduled, you know, ahead of time and stuff, he could still do that show and still appear on Superman and Lois. So that could be what happens there. I do know that he was cast in another show and I'm pretty sure he's already started filming it, but the scheduling wise could make that work. That happens all the time on shows, whether it's someone's in a movie and then is contracted to a show or vice versa. So maybe that still works, but that's for us to wait and find out, I guess. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you drop a like and it shows support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts and everything went over. As I said, the link to this blog post will be in the description down below if you want to see all the photos and extra information and stuff like that. So feel free to click on that in the description down below if you want to. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.